Ayan, so magandang umaga sa ating lahat. I will be discussing today uh, is one of the remaining topics for midterms. Kailangan nyo po itong panoorin at araling mabuti dahil part po ito ng midterm examination nyo. So today we will be discussing the global interstate system and the global governance. So let's get into it. Teka, ayaw. Yan. So these are the learning objectives for this lesson. So these are the targets that we should achieve after the discussion. So understand what's global interstate and global governance, to understand the structure and the dynamics of the interstate system, and to explain the challenges of global governance in the 21st century. So, let's focus muna sa global interstate system. Pag sinabi natin global interstate system class, it is the whole system of human interaction. So, hindi lang siya nakapokus sa iisang bansa, but it's the interaction of all human beings in the planet. So, the modern world system is structured politically as an interstate system. Pag sinabi nating interstate system class, it is the relationship of all the countries around the world. Relationship or the connection among all the state. Kaya nga siya tinawag na interstate. Inter means among or between. So it is the relationship among or between all the nations. Sa system of competing and allying states. So yung relationship nila maybe because they are competing with each other or naglalaban-laban sila or they are allying or nagko-collaborate yung mga bansang iyon. So whether they are competing or they are allying, it is called as interstate or the connection of each state. So according to the political science or political scientists, they called it as the international system. And it is the main focus of the field of international relations. Again, kaya nga siya tinawag na interstate because it is an international relationship among all the nations. So, ang focus is all the world. So systems are composed of multiple interacting policies. So hindi lang siya nakapokus sa relationship but all the policies or the laws that are governing within the countries and between all the countries. Kung ano yung mga batas na kinikilala at nag-govern o sumasaklaw sa bawat mga bansa. Alright? So, mas mas aaralin pa natin ang kahulugan ng interstate sa mga sumusunod na slides. So, ano ang purpose ng global interstate system? Is to contribute to the peace and security by promoting international collaboration. So, alam naman natin na ang ating mundo ay nakaranas na ng dalawang pandaigdigang digmaan. Ito yung World War I and the World War II. So, napag-isip ng mga bansa that it's time for us to uh, wake up and to seek peace and security and to avoid future conflict, world conflict among each other. So, hindi na natin iniisip ang digmaan. Bagkus, ang iniisip na ng mga bansa ay ang pagkakaisa at pagko-collaborate para mas mapaiting natin ang kapayapaan sa buong mundo. So, paano ulit ito na nangyayari? It is through international collaboration. At hindi lang ito nakapokus with peace and security bagkus um, it also focused on educational, scientific, and cultural reforms in order for us to increase our universal respect for justice, for the rule of law, and of course, most importantly, for human rights, along with the fundamental freedom of the people. Ayan, so sa global interstate system, hindi lang siya nakapokus sa peace and security but also for the progress of all the nation and to secure na lahat ng mga bansa ay nirerespeto ang kahalagahan ng hustisya, ng pagsunod sa batas at pagsunod sa karapatan ng bawat tao without disregarding the freedom of everyone. Again, pag global interstate system, relationship of all the countries by focusing on the international collaboration through improving our education, our science, our culture, and focusing more on universal respect for all of these mentioned values na nasa slide natin ngayon. So, next, what is the importance of global interstate system? The most important feature of the interstate system is it is an anarchic. Pag sinabi nating anarchic, punta tayo sa word na anarchy. Pag sinabi nating anarchy class, it is a form of a state wherein wala siyang gobyerno o wala siyang central authority na kumokontrol sa isang bansa. So just imagine that, a country that has no government. So ito yung uri ng government o uri ng management na meron sa global interstate system. So paano nangyayari 'yon? So, sinabi natin kanina na ang global interstate system is the collaboration between all the countries, lahat ng mga bansa. So, just imagine na itong collaboration ng mga bansang ito may nakakaangat o may mas powerful sa kanila. So, may isang bansa na nakakaangat at kumokontrol sa lahat ng mga bansa. So, ito yung iniiwasan ng global interstate system. Kaya siya ginawang anarchic. Pag sinabi natin ulit anarchic, walang nakakaangat na bansa o walang nakakaangat na state sa mga bansa na nagko-collaborate. So walang mas powerful, walang mas pinapaboran na country bagkus lahat-lahat ng mga countries ay may pantay-pantay na kapangyarihan at may pantay-pantay na karapatan upang magsagawa ng mga batas na ginagawa ng global interstate system. Ulitin ko ha, walang nakakaangat na bansa dun sa interstate system o dun sa collaboration between or among all the nation. Kaya siya tinawag na anarchic. Tandaan na nyo. Unlike politics within state, relations between state take place in a Hobbesian state of nature. Parang anarchic din niya yan. Din lang yan. Walang nakakaangat o walang mas powerful na bansa. Since an anarchic system is one in which all state constantly face actual or potential threats, their main goal is security. So, hindi ito pagpapalakas ng mga bansa o hindi ang interstate ay hindi pagpapalakas ng kanilang mga military forces. Bagkus, ang interstate ay ang pagpapalakas ng collaboration with other countries for them to avoid security threats among their countries. So pinapalakas nila yung collaboration nila sa ibang mga bansa para masiguro nila na walang mga security threats or um, safety threats na mag-a-arise among all nations. Okay? So, kailangan nilang makikollaborate sa mga bansa para masiguro nila na walang misunderstanding, walang mga political or military threats na magaganap among nations. Alright? So, that is global interstate system. And again, it is an anarchic system. Walang nakakaangat na bansa. Alright, so dumako na tayo sa global governance. Pag sinabi natin global governance class, it's the complex system of rules, norms, institutions, and processes that governs transnational issues and enable international cooperation in the absence of the world government. Tingnan natin sa last part. Cooperation in the absence of a world government. Meaning, walang pandaigdigang gobyerno, walang in-establish na government na nagtatakda na i-manage ang buong mundo. Bagkus it is just a collaboration within the nations at walang may establish na world government. Pag meron kasing world government, yung government na yon yung mag-oversee o magmamanage, kokontrol sa lahat ng political and economic processes ng ating mundo. So just imagine kung merong isang gobyerno na kumokontrol sa lahat ng processes ng ating mundo. So yung government na yon, nasa kanya lahat ng kapangyarihan para i-manage at kontrolahin lahat ng nagaganap sa ating mundo, which may negative effect yan sa lahat ng mga bansa. Kaya yan yung iniiwasan sa global interstate system. Kaya collaboration lang siya ng mga countries. Ulitin ko class ha, pag interstate system, collaboration lang siya ng mga countries. At para siguro na collaboration lang siya ng mga countries, nagkaroon tayo ng global governance wherein may sinusunod na ng mga rules, ng mga norms, may mga ini-establish na institutions para siguraduhin na walang bansa ang aangat o walang bansa ang magmamanage ng ibang mga bansa o walang bansa ang magiging powerful enough para kontrolahin lahat ng mga bansa. Like for example, ang United States, alam naman natin siya ang isa sa mga powerful na bansa sa kasalukuyan, sinisiguro ng global governance at ng interstate system na hindi masyadong aangat ang United States at hindi siya magkakaroon ng control over other countries. Alright? So, global governance broadly entails making, monitoring, and enforcing these international rules or regulations. So, dahil sa global governance na buo ang iba't ibang mga institutions na nag-oversee o tumitingin sa mga polisiya o mga batas na sinasagawa through the collaboration of the countries. So kung nagka-collaborate kasi yung mga bansa, class, gumagawa sila ng rules na susundin ng lahat ng bansa para masiguro yung peace and security, economic stability, and all um, other improvements na kailangan mga rules na kailangan ng mga bansa para walang makaangat na bansa. So, global governance broadly entails making, monitoring, and enforcing rules. Sana clear po tayo doon ha. Again, gumagawa ang mga bansa with the collaboration of these all countries ng mga policies at ng mga rules na siyang magtatakda ng mga dapat at hindi dapat gawin ng mga bansang iyon para masiguro na walang aangat, walang makakaangat, walang magiging mas powerful dun sa mga nagko-collaborate na bansang iyon. Alright, so isa sa mga ginawang institution at mas pinakakilala actually, na institution na nabuo dahil sa interstate o collaboration between nation is the United Nations. So nabuo ang United Nations during the end of World War II. So kung titignan natin, babalikan natin yung World War I at World War II. Um, Nung World War One, nung natapos ang World War One, nabuo ang isang international collaboration group or institution. It is the League of Nations. Klasa, League of Nations. So, isulat nga natin. Ayan. So, nung World War One, nabuo ang League of Nations. So, yung League of Nations, ang primary concern niyan is to avoid another world war. Nagtagumpay ba ito? Of course not, because nagkaroon ulit ng World War II, hindi ba? So, nung World War II, bumuo ulit sila ng bagong international global system, which is the United Nation. At isa ulit sa mga primary goal ng United Nation is to avoid another world war to happen. So nagtagumpay ba? So observing today na wala pang nangyayaring World War III, so masasabi natin na nagtatagumpay ang United Nations sa kanyang primary purpose na mag-avoid o pigilan ang isa pang pandaigdigang digmaan. So tandaanan po ninyo yan. So pag World War I, League of Nations. Pag World War II, United Nations. So ano nga ba yung United Nations? Through the power of the United Nations Charter. Pag sinabi nating charter, ito yung batas na nagtatakda ng pagkakabuo ng United Nations. So the United Nations serves as a primary organization for international cooperation, peace, and security. It was founded at the end of World War II during the year 1945 as a way to prevent, o yan o, prevent future conflict on that scale. Tatandaan na niyo po yan. So, the United Nations has 195 member state. 193 member state. 193 po ang miyembro sa United Nations. Ang kabuuang bilang ng bansa sa buong mundo is 195. So 195 po ang bansa sa buong mundo. So 193 ang kabilang o miyembro ng United States. So technically, dalawang bansa ang hindi kabilang sa United States, United Nations. Ano mga to? We have the Holy See or the Vatican City and the State of Palestine. So bakit sila hindi sumali sa United Nations knowing that the United Nations um, has a good purpose or good goal for maintaining peace and security for all nations. So, ang Holy See or ang Vatican City ay hindi sumali sa United Nations because it is a apolitical state. Pag sinabi nating apolitical, hindi po siya technically a political state kasi ang Holy See po na pinamumunuan ng ating Pope, sino ang bago nating Pope ngayon? Si Pope Leo. Ayan, siya po ang leader ng bansa at ang Vatican City ay hindi isang political state, bagkus it is a religious state. Habang ang State of Palestine naman ay hindi kabilang sa UN because hindi inaprubahan ang membership ng Palestine, uh, um, knowing its conflict with the State of Israel, which is a member of the United States. Dahil sa conflict nito sa State of Israel, hindi inaprubahan ng United Nations ang membership nito at makapasok sa organization. Okay? So again, hindi nakapasok o hindi miyembro ang Vatican City or ang Vatican country because hindi siya political state at ayaw din sumali ng Vatican sa United Nations. And again, hindi kasali ang State of Palestine sa United Nations kasi tinanggihan ng United Nations ang membership nito dahil sa current issue nito or conflict nito with its member state which is the Israel. So aware naman kayo sa digmaan or dun sa conflict na meron ang Palestine at saka ng Israel. Kaya hindi pinapayagan ng United Nations na makasali ito sa organization. Alright. So, currently, ang headquarters ng UN ay nasa Manhattan, New York City. And the UN Charter is the founding treaty of the nation states. Again, ulitin lang natin kanina, ang UN Charter. Ang UN Charter ay ang dahilan kung bakit na-establish ang United Nations. Ito yung parang batas na nagtatakda o nag-establish ng pagkakabuo ng United Nations. Considering an instrument of international law, it binds member states to uphold principles such as the sovereign equality of states and the provisions of the use of force. So, lahat ng mga miyembro ng mga bansa ng United Nations ay kailangang sumunod sa principle ng UN which is to promote sovereignty among nations. Pag sinabi nating sovereignty, it is the freedom of nation from external force. Pag sinabi nating external force, walang ibang kumokontrol sa mga bansa, kundi sila lang mismo. Alright? So hindi pwedeng kontrolin ng US ang Pilipinas kasi may sovereignty ito. Okay? And of course, the provision of the use of force. So dapat hindi magkaroon ng pwersahang pananakop o pwersahang interaction with other countries na siyang nagaganap naman sa kasalukuyan with Israel and Palestine and of course Russia and Ukraine. So ito yung isa sa mga issues na kinakaharap ngayon ng UN, yung digmaan sa pagitan ng ng apat na bansang ito. Alright? So knowing that United Nation is global institution among all nations, masasabi ba nating ang UN is a world government? Masasabi ba nating ang UN is a world government? The answer is no. So wrong. UN is not a world government. Sabi nga natin kanina, pag world government, may isang bansa o may isang institution na kumokontrol sa lahat ng mga bansa. Hindi kinokontrol ng UN ang lahat ng mga bansa o hindi kinokontrol ng UN ang mga bansa. Isa lang itong collaboration, isa lang itong institution na gumagabay sa mga bansa patungo sa peace and security and progress among nation. Pero hindi po siya world government. So governments represent countries and people. The United States represent neither a particular government, or any one nation. So wala pong nire-represent ang UN na gobyerno o kahit anong bansa. Bagkus ang nire-represent nito ay ang collaboration among nation o ang pagkakaisa ng bawat bansa patungo sa iisang layunin o iisang hadikain. Again ang UN ay hindi world government. Maintindihan niyo yan pag nanonood kayo ng One Piece. Sa One Piece may tinatawag tayong world government na siyang sumasaklaw o kumukontrol sa lahat ng mga bansa sa mundo nila. So, dito sa ating mundo, in reality, in reality, hindi po ito possible. Hindi po possible na magkaroon ng global government kasi magkakaroon ng negative impact sa lahat ng bansa. So, United Nations represents all its members and does only what the member states decide that it should do. So, kung ano lang ang sinasabi ng member states, yun lang ang ginagawa ng United Nations. Hindi siya gagalaw kung walang decision na nanggagaling sa mga member states nito. Again hindi gagalaw ang uh, United Nations kung walang desisyon na manggagaling sa mga member states nito. Alright? Next. The primary concern of the United Nations is to maintain international peace and security. Same goal with the global interstate system. Ang United Nations, ang pinaka gusto nito is to establish peace, world peace and world security. And again, to avoid another World War III or any international conflict. So, collective military security through facilitation of peaceful settlement of dispute among member states or by commanding allegiance of the entire UN membership. So, ang ginagawa ng UN para ma-maintain ang international peace and security is through peaceful settlement or agreement between a country na nagkakaroon ng dispute. So, ang UN ang parang nagiging mediator para pagkaisahin o pagkasunduin yung dalawang naggigera o dalawang nagkakaroon ng conflict na bansa. Alright? So, another primary concern again, ulitin lang natin, ang primary concern o primary objectives ng UN is to ensure peace and order. The UN as an organization can be a conflict actor in itself or an instrument for action driven by the interests of particular state. So, paano na natin nasabing ang UN ay pwedeng maging conflict actor in itself? Pag sinabi natin conflict actor, meaning yung mismong UN ay pwedeng maging source of international conflict. Kasi nga, di ba, sinabi natin ang UN is just a collaboration of nations. Hindi natin mawawaglit o hindi natin maa-avoid na merong mga bansa na magdi-disagree dun sa magiging desisyon ng UN or ng United Nations. So, with that case, parang magiging conflict actor o magiging dahilan ng international conflict yung UN kasi nga may mga bansa na hindi mag-agree dun sa mga mapagkakasunduang mga policies or mga rulings ng United Nations. O simplihan natin, pwedeng maging conflict of interest o conflict actor ang United Nations kung may mga bansa na hindi mag-agree dun sa mga policies o mga rulings na ginagawa ng United Nations. And the United Nations, again, can be an instrument for action driven by the interest of particular state. Pwedeng maging instrumento ang United Nations para sa interest ng iilang mga bansa. So, pwedeng mangyari yon. So, knowing that we have countries na mas powerful o mas economically inclined sa mga ibang bansa, pwedeng gamitin ang UN as a form of an instrument para kontrolin yung mga ibang mga bansa. So, in reality, kahit ang goal ng UN is to make sure na walang makakaangat na bansa, in reality, meron at meron paling makakaangat. Kasi nga, again, hindi natin maiiwasan na pansariling interes lang ng mga bansang iyon yung kanilang uunahin. Okay? So, the UN has four pillars. May apat na founding pillars ang United Nations. It is to promote peace and security. It is to prevent future conflicts. And then second, we have human rights to protect and to promote the rights of every human being on the planet for promoting development to uplift social and economic conditions of all nations. And lastly, to ensure that all the nation is following its rule of law. It is to uphold justice and accountability among all nations. So tatandaan ninyo ang apat na pillars of United Nations. Again, to ensure na magkaroon ng peace and security or peace and order among all the nations para siguraduhin na lahat ng human rights ay nasusunod at hindi na-violate. Magkaroon ng development among nations, tulungan yung mga bansa to progress and to ensure that all nations will succeed and become economically progressive. And then lastly, rule of law na lahat ng mga gobyerno sa bawat bansa ang i-uphold lang nila is justice, and kung may gagawin man sila, they will be held accountable for their actions. That's the four pillars of United Nations. Okay? Okay. Let's proceed or let's move on to the six principal organs of the United States. Ayan. Pag sinabi nating organs, just imagine our body, our systems. Our systems are, or a system, a biological system is composed of different organs. So, hindi magfa-function ang body kung walang mga organs. So, ang six principal organs ng United Nations ay ang dahilan kung bakit nagfa-function o bakit gumagana ang United Nations. So ano yung anim na organs ng United Nations? Una dito ay ang Economic and Social Council o ang ECOSOC. Ang primary target or objectives ng ECOSOC is to advance the economic, social, and environmental dimension of sustainable development. So technically, from the name itself, it is the organ of the United Nations that is focusing on the economic and social well-being of all its member states. So siya yung nangangalaga sa economic and social well-being or aspect ng mga bansang kabilang sa United Nations. So isa sa mga tunguhin o tungkulin o target ng ECOSOC ay ang tinatawag nating Sustainable Development. Pag sinabi nating Sustainable Development Class, ito yung pag-progress ng mga bansa um, without overlooking the environmental effect of this progress. So, kailangan habang nagpro-progress yung mga bansa, hindi nila nasisira yung environment, yung ecological aspect ng kanilang mga bansa. So, development and environmental protection should go hand on hand. So kung nagpo-progress yung mga bansa, hindi dapat nagde-degrade yung environmental aspect ng mga bansa. Like for example, um, sa Pilipinas, so kung magpapatayo ng mga infrastruktura ang mga bansa o ang Pilipinas rather, yung mga ano yung mga structure o yung mga buildings na dapat ipatayo nila ay hindi dapat mag-cause ng pollution or ng any issues or conflict with our environment. So dapat yung mga ipapatayo yung mga building ay hindi nakakasira ng ating kalikasan. So either hindi sila magkukos ng pollution or yung building na yon ay hindi magko-consume ng mga natural resources na siyang magde-deplete sa supply ng ating bansa. Again madali lang yung sustainable development. Ang tatandaan nyo lang dyan, dapat habang nagpro-progress ang isang bansa, ay hindi niya nine-neglect o hindi niya ino-overlook o hindi niya pinapabayaan yung kanyang environment. So, sustainable development means progressing without overlooking the effect, its effect on the environment. Okay? Yan. Example nito, pinakamagandang example nito is yung paggamit natin um, ng mga recyclable materials or recyclable products or yung hindi natin paggamit ng single-use plastic. So, nagpo-progress ang mga tao through economically, pero through the use of reusable materials o yung pag-avoid natin sa paggamit ng single-use plastics, na-prevent natin yung ecological damage or environmental damage while still progressing economically. So sana maintindihan nyo yung part na yan, okay? So again, ang Economic and Social Council, ang primary purpose nito is to enhance and develop the economic and social well-beingness of all the member states. So ang namamahala nito ay 54 elected members from the General Assembly. Ang General Assembly, pag-aaralan natin mamaya yan. But itong 54 na elected members out of 193, sila ang talagang nangangasiwa sa ECOSOC. Sila ang nagbabantay na lahat ng mga bansa ay nakakatanggap ng economic and social support from the United Nations. So, kabilang sa mga sumusuporta sa ECOSOC ay ang mga international economic institutions tulad ng International Monetary Fund na napag-aralan na natin at ang World Bank. Ang mga bansang ito ang tumutulong sa mga bansa, nagpapautang sa mga bansa para maresolba nila yung mga economic problems na kinakaharap nila sa mga sarili-sarili nilang mga bansa. Okay? So, tinutulungan nila ang UN para siguraduhin na lahat ng mga bansa ay nakakatanggap o nagiging successful sa in terms of economic and social aspect. Okay? Sorry sa pagbulol-bulol ko. Okay. All right, next. So, economic from ECOSOC, we have here Trusteeship Council. Again, Trusteeship Council. So, this organ of the United Nations provides international supervision for 11 trust territories that are under the administration of 7 member states to ensure that adequate steps are being made to prepare the people of territories for self-governance. So bago natin talakayin yung meaning niyan, i-define muna natin kung ano ang meaning ng trust territories. So ano itong mga trust territories na ito? Ang trust territories, guys, are places or islands na dating hawak ng mga bansa na natalo noong World War II. I mean World War One. Ulitin ko ha, ang mga bansang ito ay ang mga islands at mga lugar na ito ay mga territories na dating hawak ng mga bansa na natalo during the World War One. So ang namahala dito noon ay ang League of Nations. So parang transfer lang ni League of Nations kay United Nations itong mga trust territories na ito para sila yung mag-prepare sa kanila para sa kanilang kalayaan. Okay? So, itong mga bansang ito o itong mga places o islands na ito ay hawak pa rin ng pitong mga member state ng United Nations. So, uh, uh, dati hawak sila ng mga bansang natalo noong World War II, ay World War One. Sino-sino ulit ang mga bansang ito? So, ito um, yung mga central power. Since itong mga to, central power, we have Bulgaria, um, we have Bulgaria, we have sino-sino ulit yung Central Power Class? Teka, lipatan. We have Bulgaria, we have Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Ottoman Empire, which is presently or currently tinatawag na natin siya as Turkey, yung bansang Turkey. So, ang hawak ng Austria-Hungary, ng Germany, ng Ottoman Empire at ng Bulgaria, itong hawak nilang mga territories ay nalipat sa League of Nations at eventually nilipat din nila sa United Nations nung nabuwag ang League of Nations. So, ang United States, sila na ngayon ang namamahala ng trust territories na ito. Itong 11 na territories na ito, kung saan prepare nila yung mga tao at yung mga tao para magkaroon sila ng self-governance at mapalaya sila at maging isang ganap na bansa. Okay? So ano-ano itong 11 o sino-sino itong 11 na trust territories na ito? So isisihin natin, we have the Western Samoa, Nauru, Tanganyika, Round, Roundia, Urundi, British Togoland, Fresh Togoland, British Cameroons, French Cameroons, New Guinea, Italian Somaliland, and the Trust Territory of the Pacific Islands. So, ang mga islands or mga lugar na ito ay dating hawak ng Central Power na isinorender nila sa League of Nations. Then again, binigay ng League of Nations sa United Nations. That is the Trusteeship Council. Okay? So, EGOSOC, Trusteeship Council. And the next, we have here the International Court of Justice. Anong meron sa International Court of Justice or ICJ? It is the United Nations principal judicial organ. Its role is to settle legal disputes between state and to prepare or provide advisory opinions on legal questions referred by the United Nations organs and specialized agencies. So technically, ang International Court of Justice ay ang parang korte or parang Supreme Court ng United Nations. So, siya yung namamahala sa lahat ng legal actions na ginagawa ng United Nations. Siya yung mediator o nagiging taga-ayos ng mga legal disputes o issues ng mga bansa. At nagbibigay din siya ng mga legal opinions or advice sa UN kung may mga kakaharapin yung ibang mga organs ng mga legal disputes with other countries. So technically, ang International Court of Justice, from the word itself, court, siya ang namamahala sa lahat ng legal actions ng United Nations. Now, Kung meron tayong ICJ, meron din tayong ICC. Siyempre, familiar kayo sa ICC, hindi ba? Ang International Criminal Court. So, anong pinagkaiba ni International Court of Justice ng UN sa International Criminal Court? So, ang ICJ, isa siyang organ ng UN at siya yung principal court ng United Nations. Dito ginagawa lahat ng pagdinig ng kaso na may kaugnayan sa mga miyembro ng United Nations. Ang tatandaan nyo lang, pag International Court of Justice, nation to nation or bansa to bansa ang nagkakaroon ng legal disputes. At dito dinidinig sa International Court of Justice yung kanilang mga issue. Pero pag sa ICC, sila yung nagpro-prosecute ng mga individuals, so single individuals lang, for grave international crimes like genocide or war crimes, focusing on individual criminal responsibilities. So, ang ICC, ang ginagawa lang nito is to prosecute individual personalities na nakakaharap o kumakaharap ng mga international laws or tawag dito um what do you call this one? Uh, nag I lost the term eh. What do you call this? Violate in Tagalog. Um, they are the ones who violated or lumabag sa mga karapatan ng mga ibang mga tao, specifically when it comes to human rights dito sa ICC, or sa International Criminal Court nila. Dinidinig yung mga kaso ng mga personalidad na ito. Like for example, our former President Rodrigo Roa Duterte, who we know violated the human rights of the Filipinos during his program War on Drugs during his administration. So, dahil sa kanyang pag-violate daw sa human rights ng mga napatay during the War on Drugs, kaya siya hinuli at kasulukuyang dinidinig ang kaso niya sa International Criminal Court. So yan yung pinagkaiba ni ICJ or International Court of Justice at ni International Criminal Court. So sana clear yan. Next, number four, we have Security Council. Ano naman ang Security Council? It has the power to make legal binding resolutions. So nakafocus sa Security Council sa security o pag-maintain ng security among all the nations na members ng United Nations. So for the maintenance of international peace and order or security, it has 15 members. Lima dito ay permanente and 10 are non-permanent members. Each member has one vote under the charter. All member states are obligated to comply with the Council's decision. So the Security Council takes the lead in determining the existence of a threat to the peace and act of aggression. So, according here, ang Security Council daw ay may 5 permanent members at may 10 non-permanent members na nagpapalit every every year. Tama, every year nagpapalit ng non-permanent members. So, ano ang ginagawa ng Security Council? Sila ang nagdedetermine kung meron bang security threat na nagaganap sa isang bansa or kung meron bang security threats na meron sa mundo. Like for example, the rise of terrorism, mga um, um, paglaganap ng communism threats, ano pa ba? security. Basta anything that can cause harm sa mga tao through their security or their safety, ito yung ini-emphasize o dinedetermine ng Security Council. So, pag nakaka-determine sila ng mga threats, they either conduct agreements or they proceed to act with aggression. So, kung hindi nila madaan sa political agreement sa mga nagkokos ng threat or ng security threat, ang ginagawa nila is to act through aggression. So, gumagawa sila ng military action such as pagsugod or military programs na mag-eliminate or uh, mag-eliminate dito sa mga threats na meron sa ating mundo o sa mga countries. Okay? Again, pag Security Councils, ang focus nila is to determine and to extinguish the security threats na meron sa ating mundo o sa mga bansa. Okay? So, balik tayo sa permanent members. Ang limang permanenteng membro ng Security Councils are what we call the P5. Sino-sino itong P5 na ito? These are China, France, Russia, United Kingdoms, and United States. So, if familiar sila sa inyo, these are the members of the Allied powers during the World War I and the World War II. So, sa kanila yung permanenteng position dahil sila ang nanalo during the World War I and the World War II. Again, these are the Allied powers who won the World Wars and granted the permanent seats on the Security Council. So anong function ulit ng Security Council aside from determining threats worldwide and internationally? It also investigate any situation that has the potential of creating international tension. So sila na tumitingin kung may mga situation ba o may kaganapan ba o event ba sa mundo na maaaring mag-cause ng international dispute or tension among these countries. Like for example, UN can determine that the conflict between the West Philippine Sea can later on become an international tension which may cause a war or um, militarization between um, these concerned states or nations. So, pwede nilang sabihin na yung conflict na nangyayari sa West Philippine Sea ay pwedeng maging dahilan ng pagkakaroon ng another international war. Alright? So, they can investigate with that. So, another one, they can call for military actions. Kaya nga sabi natin kanina dito, if na-determine na nila yung threats, they can act on aggression. So, pwede silang magpadala ng military force sa mga bansa o sa mga lugar na merong aggression or merong mga threats para mapigilan yung paglaganap ng threat na ito. Okay? So, they also impose economic sanctions and other measures. So, ano sa tingin nyo na economic sanctions ang ginagawa ng UN, particularly ng Security Council, para mapigilan yung paglaganap ng threat o paglaganap ng security threats o aggression sa isang bansa? Punta tayo sa trade barriers. Ang ginagawa nila is to impose embargo o yung pagbaband ng importation at exportation sa isang bansa. And lastly, to determine the existence of breach of peace and action to be pursued. O parang sinamarize niya din na lang lahat yan. So they determine the breach of peace kung meron mang dispute or misunderstanding between nations, and what are the actions that they need to establish and to implement. All right? So, let's proceed to General Assembly. Ang General Assembly, it's like the universal representation of all the member nations or member states ng United Nations. So, lahat-lahat ng mga representative ng bawat nations ay pumupunta sa General Assembly o sa General Meeting o parang ano lang ha, parang sa school lang na every now and then meron tayong General Assembly. So dito ginagawa nila lahat ng lahat ng mga bansa, lahat ng mga representative ng mga bansa ay pumupunta sa isang general meeting na nagaganap sa United Nations. So anong pinag-uusapan nila dito? So they are talking about all the important or essential topics or issues that needed immediate actions or immediate repercussions. So pinag-uusapan dito yung mga concerns, yung mga issues na dapat nang dinggin at dapat nang bigyan ng aksyon ng lahat ng mga bansa. So either about peace and security, about budgetary matters or economic issues, about kung may papasok na bagong miyembro, kung naisipan na ng Vatican City na pumasok, magkakaroon ng General Assembly. At kung may mga pagdedesisyonan sila, ang masusunod ay ang majority. At anong majority? Ito ang two-thirds ng lahat ng mga miyembro. So, i-compute nyo na lang, ano ang two-thirds ng 193. Okay? So, dinggin natin sa next meeting kung ilan. So, the General Assembly meets for annual. So, every year, ang General Assembly session. And general debate participated by several head of states. The body elects a GA president and 21 vice presidents every session for 1 year term. So, summarize lang natin ha. So, sa General Assembly, nangyayari to every year. And every year, nag-e-elect sila ng General Assembly President at ng 21 member President. Sino-sino itong mga to? Yung mga representatives lang din ng mga member states. So, and then may mga nagaganap din na assembly yung mga mismong head o mga pangulo ng mga bansa. At doon sila nagkakaroon ng debate or ng usapin o usapan kung paano nila mapapatibay yung collaboration nila with or among or between all the nations. Okay? That is General Assembly. And lastly, we have here Secretariat. Ang Secretariat po, it comprises the Secretary General and 10,000 of international UN staff members who carry out the day-to-day work of the United Nations. So ang Secretariat po has all the functioning workers or yung mga officials na siyang nagpa-function o nagpapagana ng United Nations. So, ang pangulo o nangunguna or siyang taga-mandate, paano ba, taga-manage ng UN ay ang Secretary General. So ang Secretary General po ay na-elect through the General Assembly. So ang Secretary General parang siya yung pinaka-head ng office ng United Nations. Parang siya yung pinaka-boss ng United Nations. Pero it doesn't mean na siya ang pinaka-leader ng buong mundo. Hindi po. Siya lang ang tagapag tagapag-ensure, tagapag-siguro na lahat ng mga processes na ginagawa ng United Nations ay nasusunod sa kagustuhan ng lahat ng United Nations member state. Okay? So aside from the Secretary General, nandyan din yung libo-libong mga staff ng UN para masiguro na lahat ng ginagawa ng UN ay maayos at nakatuon dun sa roles na ginagampanan ng United Nations. So again, Secretariat. Now, ang Secretary General, siya yung, again, pinaka-leader o Chief Administrative Officer ng opisina ng United Nations. That is according to Article 97 ng um, ng charter ng United Nations. So, it is recommended by the General Assembly which will appoint the Secretary General every 5 years terms at most. So pag sinabi natin 5 years at most, ang bawat termino ng Secretary General is 5 years. So dalawang termino yon. So 10 years ang tagal ng termino ng isang Secretary General. So as As for September 4, 2025, ang Secretary General ng United Nations ay si Antonio Gutierrez. So ang kanyang termino ay magtatapos next year ng I think September or December. So yan yung end ng termino ni Antonio Gutierrez. So siya ang pinaka-chief administrative officer ng United Nations. Okay, tandaan na nyo. Alright. So, yan. Diyan nagtatapos ang ating discussion about the interstate system and global governance. Ulitin natin ang six principal organs of the United Nations which make sure that nagfa-function ang United Nations. Here comes the Economic and Social Council or the ECOSOC, the Trusteeship Council, the International Court of Justice or ICJ. We also have here the Security Council, and we have here the General Assembly or GA or GA. And lastly, we have the Secretariat, which is being led by the Secretary General. So if you have a question, class, you can just send your inquiries sa ating group chat para ma-address natin. And for your output for this topic, please answer or make this activity or output. So, direction, think of a model, either it's a human or non-human. Pwedeng gamitin yung chair or yung hangin or yung fire. Ano ba? Yung government natin or TV, kahit ano, or humans. Si Duterte, si Trump, anyone, okay? That would best represent what a United Nation is. So, gaw, uh, mag-isip daw kayo ng kahit ano, human or non-human, na pwedeng i-compare o mag-represent kay United Nation. Make sure that you will also provide your explanation as to why you have chosen that model to represent the UN. So, saan nyo to gagawin? Gawin nyo na lang sa one half sheet of paper. So kung model ito, kailangan nyong i-drawing sa harapan yung model na mapipili ninyo. At sa likod, dun nyo i-explain kung bakit yon ang sa tingin nyong best na magre-represent sa United Nations. So, these are the criterias for scoring. We have content, ideas, and rationale. It is 10 points. The organization of your essay or your explanation, your word of choice, and for mechanism, we have 5 points. And for the representation, creativity, and originality, you have there 5 points. So equivalent of 20 points. So that will be passed on um, kailan ba? Sa Monday na lang ipapas, okay? Sa Monday. So, after ng parade for the ano ba yun? Yung Diamond Anniversary of University of Northern Philippines, isasabit nyo po sa akin, sa aking office, sa DSSP, yung mga outputs ninyo para ma-check ko din agad kasi next week will be our midterm examination. Kailangan nating maghabol, class, okay? So, expected din na meron tayong another chapter test para dito sa global interstate system and global governance. Again, if you have any question or inquiries, just ask on our official group chat. Oh, official. Okay? So, that's all and goodbye.